Hello, zombie hunters. If you've been waiting for Left 4 Dead 3 for the last 12 years, well, maybe it's here. Here's my take on Back 4 Blood. Before I dive right into it, I like to say that I really loved the Left 4 Dead series. My friends and I were big fans of the Versus game mode, and for the most part, won a big chunk of our games. So going into this review, I'd like to say that every part of me wants to love this game. But we can't live in the past, and games of yesterday won't necessarily meet up to our expectations in the future. So let's talk about Back 4 Blood. Before I get into criticism, I would like to start with the parts I actually enjoyed and the things I feel that this game really has going for it. First, this game is crossplay. This potentially opens up the player base by a lot. When the Left 4 Dead series came out, crossplay wasn't even something we could imagine would exist. Most game developers felt like it just couldn't be done. And yet, here we are, with Back 4 Blood working for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Because I also play Fortnite, I have picked up quite a few friends who play on console only. So for me, this is a winning point. Also as a positive, the cards. Players can adjust their gameplay based on the cards they either pick up in the campaign or the cards they choose to add to their decks. While I still feel this is more confusing than fun, I think over time players will grow into this aspect of the game and actually enjoy it. While many people may feel this is a negative because it's confusing and feels unbalanced and cluttered, overall, I think it's probably a positive. And of course, this game is basically Left 4 Dead. It's just a shinier, more bloated version of Left 4 Dead. But if you love the gameplay in Left 4 Dead and zombie shooters are your thing, then you will probably like this game too, even if the negatives outweigh the positives. Okay, so let's talk about the things that were maybe not so good, or need more polishing before the game goes live. First, the difficulties are insanely unbalanced. The Survivor difficulty is definitely too easy. Players can breeze through these levels without much difficulty and without really working together as a team. However, step 1 difficulty up to a veteran, and you're suddenly faced with an impossible task. I would like to say that I personally did enjoy this difficulty. However, I hate the idea that I know that there is no way that we are going to win the campaign as a whole. The first level of the campaign was typically fine, but by the time you have gotten into the 3rd or 4th part, you're barely hanging on. And that kind of obliteration should really be reserved for the hardest difficulty, which I can only imagine is darn near impossible. This brings me to my next and probably my biggest complaint: trauma damage. This is a mechanic I feel should not exist in this game. Players receive trauma damage over time, which then is only healable from the health dispensers hidden in obscure spots around the map. And since you only get 1 free heal among the whole team, you're dishing out 400 copper just to get your health back. Medkits, bandages, and pills do not negate this. And in my opinion, if this mechanic persists through the beta, developers should rethink letting other meds heal back the trauma damage. Or in my opinion, they should just completely trash this horrible mechanic. Okay, so this is a personal pet peeve of mine. I dislike greatly when game developers try to force players to play in the way that they imagined rather than in the way the gamers want to play. Gaming should be fun, always. So I am not in love with the lack of ammo in this game. In Left 4 Dead, players could find ammo piles throughout. These ammo piles would replenish all ammo from each player that interacted with it. It did not disappear and was never used up. However, in Back 4 Blood, players have to choose different weapons than their teammates or face never having ammo. I personally prefer ARs, but apparently most of my team did as well. This means that we were constantly looking for ammo and constantly resorting to melee or using weapons that we did not want to use. If game developers want players to have an enjoyable time, limiting ammo or forcing players into weapons that they do not want to use is not the way to go. The beta only brought 1 campaign for players to try. However, this campaign felt like it went on forever. I always felt like Left 4 Dead did a great job with their campaign lengths. 4 or 5 parts to each campaign is about perfect. However, in Back 4 Blood, we're looking at a whopping 8 parts, and most felt extremely long and drawn out. Overall, campaigns should not take hours to complete unless you are playing on the hardest difficulty. I felt like this whole campaign could have been cut in half and been 2 different campaigns. Part 4 ended with a finale type feel, but then continued on to Part 5. Developers would be wise to consider making these 2 separate campaigns rather than one super long one. Along with this long campaign comes massive hordes of special Effecteds. In Left 4 Dead, players knew at any given time they were up to 4 special infected and the possibility of a tank. However, in Back 4 Blood, you literally can run into 4 or 5 of the same special infected all at the exact same time. This is entirely too much and probably explains why the versus part of Back 4 Blood was so ill received. In Left 4 Dead, teams would take turns running through the campaign while the other team was playing on the special infecteds. This leads to players utilizing spots that would become instant kills and require a good amount of teamwork. However, in Back 4 Blood, it feels like developers got confused and started trying to make a battle royale game. The small area, the lack of progression to new areas, it just doesn't feel like Left 4 Dead. And let's be honest here, a lot of the player base is trying this game because it's made by the same developers that made Left 4 Dead. So while we are talking about this, can we have a moment to reflect on how much we actually loved the tank and the witch?
Oh shoot. Sorry.
I'm reloading.
There are not really replacements for those two zombie types, and they definitely appeal to players. While I realize there are limitations on this game since Turtle Rock Studios is no longer affiliated with Valve, the current special infected, well, they just don't feel special. And with that, I would like to talk about my biggest complaint. This game is ridiculously overpriced. And maybe Turtle Rock Studios knows that they can get that because people have been waiting for Left 4 Dead 3 for 12 years or more. But for $60, I expect to receive the whole game and all of the content that comes with it, or at least $60 worth of content. But what you get for that price feels very lacking. And what is more, you have to pay extra if you want the DLCs coming in the future. If you want the DLCs, you're paying $90, and if you want everything, you're paying $100. For a game that does not feel like it's even as good as Left 4 Dead, that's a huge ask. The developer has also put other limitations on the game, like no custom maps and only playable online. This leads to concerns about longevity of the game. Asking players to dish out $100 without a guarantee that they can be playing it 12 years from now? Well, who else is suddenly re-downloading Left 4 Dead? I want to love this game, I really do. I will not say I didn't enjoy playing it because I did enjoy it, but from a review perspective, I cannot say that I would recommend picking up the game, at least not in its current state. Developers are asking for way too much money for too little content, and for something that feels less fun and like a crappy knockoff of Left 4 Dead. I think I would recommend World War Z over Back 4 Blood, at least from a beta perspective. I truly expected to feel like I was stepping into a shinier, more polished version of Left 4 Dead, but what I got was more like a lackluster version of World War Z and a hefty price tag. A couple of things that I do not necessarily think weigh on whether or not to buy the game, but I feel are worth mentioning. First, what is with the language censors? Having it on blocks typed words, but not the language from the characters? I do not mean your teammates, I mean the characters. Also, why does the game randomly censor my teammates' names if they have 2 O's in their name? There is a whole thread on this on Steam. Also, the end credits on Left 4 Dead were way better than the weird accolades at the end of each round. Held 6 perks? Who cares? I want to know who killed the most specials, or who had the most friendly fire, or who healed the most. Left 4 Dead did this way better. Also, the bots are terrible. They were terrible in Left 4 Dead 2, but I think that 12 years would have resulted in something better than this. If you are going in without 4 players, you're about to have a rough time. The characters in this game aren't memorable and make me miss Bill and Lewis and Francis even more. The voiceover is terrible and often does not make sense at all. And finally, some Horde events are just not fun. Running across the bridge is something I did enjoy. However, running back in to plant bombs while also leaving a teammate behind feels like it's not conducive to teamwork. And then there are events which just are not fun, like popping the pustules in the farm area, dropping the gravel, and the extremely lackluster finale. Overall, Left 4 Dead did it better. Save your money, play the original. When the price comes down on Back 4 Blood and some of these issues are addressed, maybe catch it on sale. But for $100, I'd expect this game to be something you'd be sinking a lot of time into, and I just don't see that happening. Did you play Back 4 Blood? Did you love it? Did you play Left 4 Dead? Between the two, which is better in your opinion? Do you think it's a game you'll play when it releases in October? Let me know in the comments below. If you watch my channel, you know I cover a lot of games. I know I've done a lot of game reviews recently, but as most of the games I was anxiously awaiting have had their beta releases, I'll be returning to some more how-tos, funny moments, and gameplay videos. If there is something that you would like me to cover, let me know. I love game recommendations. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember, gaming should be fun.